Hello everyone, this is Margarita with CityGal Papeterie. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I wanted to kick off this fall season. Well, we're way into the fall season, but I wanted to create some scrappy cards in this video using all of these scrap papers that I have here and some card bases. I'm starting off with some mini slimline card bases. To the upper left, I have some regular A2 size card bases, so they are 4.5 by 5.25. And I'm going to go through my scraps, see what I like, what matches, what goes together, what feels right for me, and then start creating little clusters on my card fronts. And I will continue to work through this little stash of scrap papers. This might be a multi-part video depending on how much I get done, but I'm going to play some music for you and you can enjoy the process, and then I will be right back at the end of the video to talk a little bit about all of the cards that I created. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you get some great ideas from this and maybe some motivation to create some cards of your own. So now that I have some idea of some of the main elements that I'm gonna be putting on these card bases, I come back, I lay them all out so I can see them all at once, and I'm gonna continue to go through the stash of scrap papers and slowly add more elements to each card as I find things that coordinate well or complement the colors or images, patterns, or icons that are already present. So that leaf one looks pretty much done. It's got the beautiful leaves and then some monochromatic pieces behind it. And I will continue working in this way until all of my cards are complete. I will grab pieces of paper that coordinate. I will add different details to embellish the card, make a focal point stand out, or to just add some more detailing and make the card look more festive or less festive, depending on what I'm trying to accomplish with each card. For a lot of these cards, I also like to add some stitching, so you'll see that I probably take away the elements, and off screen I will sew some stitching onto the paper, and that creates both texture and detail, and I don't know, it gives it a touch that I really like, that I've been doing for quite some time now, and I really just like how my cards look when they have a little bit of stitching detail onto them. And so yeah, so you'll see this process continue on as I complete these cards, and again, I'll be back in a short while to talk some more about this process. So here you see me using a blender and some Hero Arts black dye ink to add some shading to the edges. This will help the image of the pumpkins stand out a little bit more. You also get to see the stitching details a little bit more, which I like. And then I'm going to prop that up on some foam tape to give it some dimension. And this is also a process that is repeated quite often in my card making. So you will see in multiple cards from this set, I use the blender to add some of that shading to the edges. And I also add a lot of the foam tape to give the card itself some dimension. I also like to add a bit of more texture to my cards. So here you'll see me pulling up the card front that I just made because I wanted to add some of that flat twine ribbon. And this twine ribbon is from Stampin' Up. I believe I did purchase it while it was on clearance, so I'm not sure if they still have it, but I'll link it below just in case. And yeah, I really like to add ribbon or twine to my cards. They add another element of texture and detail that just make your cards look a lot prettier in my opinion. But you know, you can always keep your cards more simple. This is obviously a detail that is not necessary in any card, but it does create, I don't know how to describe it, but maybe it's just a personal thing, but it's a personal preference for me. I do like the little elements and details of added texture and dimension to cards by using stitching and things like sequins or glitter or twine and ribbon, and even florals if you have like the paper flowers and things like that. Here I'm once again adding more of that blending technique to the edges of the papers, and again that's gonna give it a nice pop against the white card base. These stickers are super duper cute. They are from the Dollar Tree. They have pumpkins on them and they go perfectly with this paper that has to do with camping and outdoors and stuff like that. And I think that it has a really nice fall theme to it. I think I'd leave it without a sentiment. It's always good to have some cards in your stash without a sentiment. And now I'm also going to bring in this edge punch to add more details and add these punched out edges to my card front. In addition to adding details with stitching and twine or ribbon, I also like to add other elements as well that you wouldn't normally see on a card, like these labels. I do like that you can write your sentiment on it if you want to, or you can have it as a little detail on the front of your card. Now, as far as sentiments, I will randomly add sentiments if I find them in my scrap stash, or if I think of something that I have that might coordinate with a particular design. For sentiments, I usually go towards things that are already written on. So, you know, this is obviously already a pre-printed sentiment. It says hello fall, but I might also use stamping if I have a stamp that has a sentiment I'd like to use, or cut aparts from different paper pads sometimes have good elements that you can use as your sentiment, or you can leave it blank and have a card that would be used for general purposes, usually like a thank you card or a congrats card. Those usually I find don't require a sentiment. Now for the background of this card, I use a technique that we often forget. This cardstock is really thin, so I scrunch it up to give it some wrinkly texture, and then I open it up, and once it's all opened up, I'm gonna take an ink pad. I believe, yes, I use Distress Ink Old Paper, and I'm just rubbing it right onto the piece of paper so that it gives it really nice texture and dimension and color. I'm also going to use it along the edges of that piece of paper. And then, so that I can get it down nice and flat, I'm going to adhere it to my card base using a glue stick, and I make sure that I'm covering the entire back of that piece of paper. And then you'll see once I get that on the card base, it's going to adhere nice and flat, as as if it wasn't wrinkly at all. And it does create a really nice look that I think is unique to other things that you see on cards. And it's free if you have ink, and it gives your card a nice look. And it doesn't require any special tools or skills at all. So give it a try if you haven't. And so it is now the next day, and these are the cards that I completed. I did have to finish them off camera as I had other things that I needed to do and could not continue filming. But this is one of the cards that I created with the slim line, and I'm just showing the supplies that I used to create the background, the stickers in the front, and this sentiment came from an ephemera pack from my stash. And now there was audio on this video, that's why I'm like moving my hands around because I'm explaining what I was doing, but that didn't work out, so here we are. These leaves came from a printable. I've been really into printables lately. I find that they are quite inexpensive when you purchase them online from Etsy. I usually get my printables from Etsy from different sellers, and it's normally like under $5 for like a whole set of different elements that you can cut out and use in your projects. If you make a mistake, you can print it again. Of course, the caveat of this is that you have to have a printer, ink, and paper. But that's where these pretty leaves came from. The beauty came from an ephemera pack as well, and then all the other elements that I used were scrap papers. Here I'm showing you the stitching details on the edging of this card and all the pieces of scrap that I got to use. Here's one that was not filmed in the process. I added a few more coordinating pieces of scrap, and then that little ribbon on the front came from an ephemera pack as well. I have no idea what I was explaining, but I was definitely explaining something. But I did lose that audio, so here we are. And again, I'm just pointing out the details that were added, all of the pieces of scrap paper that I was able to use, including the sentiment on the front. Here's the little pumpkin card with the stitching on the left, and I'm showing you where I got those stickers from. They were from the Dollar Tree. It has a really nice coordinated look to it, and I do definitely feel like it's a nice fall card. It's also a nice masculine card, and this is probably my favorite. I really love that image. That image came from the cover of a 12 by 12 paper pad, and sometimes the cover of the paper pad will have images that show the actual papers that are inside, and sometimes I cut those out and I use them in projects. Here I grabbed a tag from an ephemera pack and added it as the element or focal point, you could say, for the top of this card. And here's the pumpkin image card. This might be the only landscape card that I created out of this bunch, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's got the really pretty fall themed pumpkins and the sentiments, the nice twine ribbon there. Oh no, this one's also landscape. So now we have this one where I used one of these rosettes. I usually create rosettes on during downtime at home, and then I keep them stashed away for when I'm ready to use them. So I took a white one like this and cut it in half, and that is what is behind that sentiment, which came from an ephemera pack. Now these are the A2 size cards that I created using the same scrap stash, that little pile of scrap papers that I showed you in the beginning. And here I'm pointing out all of the scraps that I used. This is also an image from the front of a paper pad. And then this card design with the larger pattern paper on top and the smaller at the bottom, I use quite a bit. I did use a paper flower for the front of this one, a sentiment from an ephemera pack, and a ribbon, as well as a rosette. And here again, I used a rosette and I stamped a thank you onto this banner, and I outlined it with a pen. The background paper is scrap, as well as these branding strips that I used to create the little ribbons for the rosette. Here I've got some blank cards that have kind of repeating design or repeating pattern papers. These were from larger papers that I had in my scrap pile. So the patterns are used in multiple cards here. I kept them really simple, and I kept them blank so that I have cards ready to add onto in the future. And these are all black card bases. Again, the background is scrap paper, and I created a ruffled strip of crepe paper that I added to the front, and then I detailed that with some gray twine. And the sentiment is from an ephemera pack. This is also one of my favorites. I like the simple sentiment that says you can do it. It's great for encouragement. If you do use black cardstock, I'm just explaining here, make sure that you add some white cardstock to the inside so that you can add your message on the inside. Or you could use some chalk pens or gel pens that show on darker colored paper. For this one, I used a doily, which I had lying around in my stash for quite some time. The background is scrap paper. The gather sticker on the front is just from a sticker sheet, as well as the strip sticker on the side. Here, the background papers are also from my scrap pile. And then the sentiment that is included on that little front piece of ephemera is from, I think that's Echo Park. It's from an ephemera pack. And here's the last card. It has some stitching along the top as well as around the motif piece there with leaves on it. And it's got that sentiment, says find out where you truly belong. And that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed that. If you like this video, please hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.